Who wants to go to John 8 and read verse 29?
And he who sent me is with me. He has not left me alone, for I always do the things that are pleasing to him.
That's Jesus talking. In fact, next week, our message next week is Jesus and purpose. Today we're just kind of messing around with purpose and goals a little bit. Would you read that one more time? What did Jesus say about pleasing?
And he who sent me is with me. He has not left me alone, for I always do the things that are pleasing to him.
That's a really nice way of saying I am focused on my purpose. I am focused on his purposes. I know the nature of purpose is pleasing. I always do those things that are pleasing to him. We're in this thing together. He sent me. I'm not alone. Why? Because we're walking this thing out. I always do those things that are pleasing to him. I'm fulfilling my purpose. This is good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. In order to hit the third question, we're going to go back into the Old Testament to an old favorite. We're talking David and Goliath tonight. And we're kind of like ending with David and Goliath. But at the same time, I've got some things to say about David and Goliath. And David and Goliath in 1 Samuel 17, it's very, very clear what the goal's purpose. And I think it's very helpful to us. We're not going to read the entire story because it just goes on like forever. We're just going to pop out a few verses here and there. And I hope that they are helpful to all of us with where we are all at and desiring to go. So, because we know the story of David and Goliath, there's no reason to really go through the whole thing. I'm just going to pop out a few verses. Verse 3, if somebody wants to read that.
17, you said?
3.
The Philistines stood on a mountain on one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, with a valley between them.
Now, when the chapter starts off, it's very clear that this land belongs to Judah. There are two mountains. Israel's on one side, the Philistines are on the other. And there's a valley between, as there always is between mountains. Judah means praise. Valleys belong to God. Valleys belong to God. When David says, though I walk through the valley, by the way, my dad's valley, when I walk through the valley, there's a shadow of death. It's not really particularly impacting. I don't fear any evil because it's my dad's valley. He's with me. His rod and his staff comfort me. In other words, as this story unfolds, we need to remember certain things. Because David is going to, he's going to know God's direction, and he's going to fulfill it. He's going to fulfill his purpose, which we will see. But the first thing for David is knowing that valley belongs to us, not the Philistines. And I want to tell you, whatever valley we traverse into belongs to God. Valleys are God's. They are not the enemy's. Best he could do is try to freak us out a bit, hinder us a bit with a shadow that tries to make us afraid. But it's Dad's valley. And this kid is going into the valley because the only way we could take the next mountain is through the valley. That's the way it works. Verses 15 through 17.
But David occasionally went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. And the Philistine drew near and presented himself 40 days, morning and evening. Then Jesse said to his son David, Now, take now for your brothers an ephah of dried grain and these 10 loaves, and run to your brothers at the camp.
David would go back and forth from the war zone, the valley, to home, because he had responsibilities at home. He would go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. See what's happening over, with the army, but go back home to take care of the sheep. And then one day, his father commissions him as a son. Take these supplies to your brothers. And he's commissioned. Now he's not going back and forth anymore. He's commissioned by his father because he's a son. And he's been commissioned. In other words, David does not even entertain the thought of going into the valley and wiping out Goliath till he's sent by his father. Once he's sent by his father as a son, he recognizes this is the Lord's direction. My Father has sent me. John 8:29. The one who sent me has not left me alone. We're in this thing together, and I always do those things that are pleasing. I'm fulfilling my purpose. He does not act until the Father sends him, and he is now a commissioned son. And I want to say to all of us in here, every one of us in here has been commissioned as sons, daughters, either way. We have been sent. We have been commissioned. It's in all four Gospels. The commissioning is there. Verses 20 through 22.
So David rose early in the morning, left the sheep with the keeper, and took the things and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the camp as the army was going out to the fight and shouting for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had drawn up in battle array, army against army. David left his supplies in the hand of the supply keeper, ran to the army, and came and greeted his brothers.
I don't know if you noticed, he left his sheep with the keeper, somebody who could take care of him while he was gone. He gets the supplies. He gets to the war zone. He takes the supplies and he gives them to the supplier. David appears to be a pretty responsible person to me. He's not just going off half-cocked, so to speak, just running all over the place. I'm a commissioned son. I'm a commissioned son. No, there is an order. There's a responsibility that he demonstrates. What I put down here is responsibility and accountability before rights and privileges. One of the things that is crippling the church nowadays, very good, on sonship and the whole thing, but more the rights and the privileges of being a son instead of the responsibilities and the accountability to the father. His own father had commissioned him, and we see him very responsible, accountable. In other words, he understands he's been given authority. He understands the nature of that authority. This is all setting David up for the goals and the purpose. Like I said, I'm just touching on a few things from the story that I think are helpful to us. Verses 23 through 36.
Then as he talked with them, there was the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, coming up from the armies of the Philistines. And he spoke according to the same words, so David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were dreadfully afraid. So the men of Israel said, Have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to defy Israel. And it surely shall be that the man who kills him, the king will enrich with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and give his father's house exemption from taxes in Israel. Then David spoke to the men who stood by him, saying, What shall be done for this man who kills this Philistines and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? And the people answered him in this manner, saying, So shall it be done for the man who kills him. Now Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger was aroused against David, and he said, "Why did you come down here? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and the insolence of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle." And David said, "What have I done now? Is there not a cause?" Then he turned from him toward another and said the same thing. And
How far are you reading?
You said 37.
No. 23 through 26.
27. Okay, sorry.
26.
Oh,
Well,
26.
that's 36. Okay.
Oh,
Did I say 36?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's right.
Good
I was
story.
going to say it's. Well, I'm listening and I'm thinking, boy, there's a lot in there. Yes, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
This is important.
Through 20.
Understanding more than the times. David starts to articulate the purpose in the verses that Aaron was reading. People have said all kinds of stuff about this little exchange here. That they were talking about, what would be given to the person who beat Goliath. And David has them repeat, what will be given to the person who defeats Goliath? Now, I don't know if you noticed, because again, like I say, there was a lot that Aaron was reading, but right after that, David makes it clear. I mean, not everybody, people have taken a shot at David. Well, you see, there you go. His ears started tingling. No taxes for your dad, the king's daughter, all this kind of stuff. That David was going after the stuff. What I hear David saying, by virtue of the text actually, what I hear David saying is they're all talking about the rewards of going out and beating Goliath. What I hear David saying is that what this is about? Is it about rewards? What you're going to get out of it? I'm telling you, there is an uncircumcised giant on our land out there in the valley talking about us, talking about our God, and you guys are concerned about the rewards? That's where I hear David coming from. I'm absolutely outraged that for 40 days, that big lard has been out there in the middle of the valley shooting his mouth off about our God, making us look like a bunch of idiots, and we're all talking about the rewards? Seriously. Give me another message on the perks of being a Christian. He's outraged that somebody is in the valley who doesn't have a covenant. He calls them uncircumcised. He said that uncircumcised guy is out there. He's got no promises from God. I do. I got promises. I got a God. That's his valley. He gave it to us. We are supposed to operate in the valley where giants stand there and say, I dare you. I dare you to come out into the valley. And David's like, that's my dad's, and I've got a promise. That's my valley. That's not yours. Go home now while you can still walk. I'll give you... Go home while you can still walk, Mr. Goliath. If you don't, I'm coming out and I'm taking your head off your shoulders. And it's not because I have anything to prove. It's because I've been commissioned to come here. I've got a promise from God.